Hello, Zach. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you, Crypto Princess. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking. So, Zach, I know you, and many of the viewers will know you, but for any of the newcomers, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you?
Yeah, so my name's Crypto Zach. I've been doing crypto YouTube now for about 12 months. You can find all the information about me in the description below, so make sure you go check that out. But yeah, so basically, I've been in the space for about 12 months now, mainly focusing on the meme coin space and low cap altcoins, as well as price analysis and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Okay, so Zach, today we want to hear your crypto story. We want to hear everything, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows. Before we get into your journey, can you tell us a little bit about who Zach was before he was Crypto Zach?
Yeah, so I was born and always grown up in Australia. Always lived my life in Australia, and yeah, so I've been in the game for a little over no, about 4 years now. Yeah, so I started in late 2020, mid 2020, and yeah, so I've been all over the place. In all honesty, I've worked in real estate. I've worked at airports across Australia. I'm currently a pilot as well, doing all sorts of things. Just trying to really, remain active in a sense. And obviously, the main thing about me right now is the crypto game. That is one of the things I've been really, really interested in for a very long period of time. And it's something that I've always wanted to just increase my knowledge on and, get a better understanding of. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Um, so, Zach, from a young age, you have been financially knowledgeable. You've understood the fiat system. You've understood that inflation reduces the buying power of our money. How are you so money savvy as a teenager?
So it's a funny one. When I was a teenager, I started off very unsavvy in a sense, right? So I was very, very bad with money. And there became a point in my life where so this was actually after the point I first invested in crypto, because the first time I invested in crypto in 2020, I wasn't investing in crypto to get ultimately rich. I was just investing in crypto to, um, you know, be smarter with my money. But then when I got out of crypto and I got this second job and I ended up moving in with one of my mates, and that's when I started partying a lot more when I was 19, there was really a point in my life where I actually literally had no money as a 19-year-old, and I was actually really, really scared. And then I do remember getting back into the crypto game at that point in time, because it was like, this is time. This is it. All right. It's time to change. No more drinking, going out every weekend and doing, all this stuff with your friends. It's time to really, put your smart hat on and get to work. And that's when everything really changed in my life. That's when I started making good financial decisions. I started, really thinking about budgeting and really thinking about what I'm actually doing with my money. And it really turned out to be a really, really good success for me personally, because in 2 years, like, going from being really, really broke to going, being a lot better than that and being a better person in general, it's been a really good journey. So that's why I'm really appreciative of crypto as well, because it really has changed my life and changed everything, I guarantee you, about my life. It's been really good.
Brilliant. So, Zach, you actually got into crypto as a teenager. Now, crypto is a unregulated, highly volatile asset. How well did you understand crypto when you entered into the space? And were you concerned about scams, rug pulls, or if it was even a Ponzi scheme?
So it's a pretty complex question. So when I first got into crypto, I was kind of just like, oh yeah, it's like a digital investment sort of thing. It's like digital gold. It's kind of like, what everyone thinks, right? Oh, is this actually worth it? Is it too good to be true? And I was always told, like, crypto is too good to be true, right? If something's too good to be true, it's obviously not worth it, which obviously wasn't the case. I'm really glad that I stuck with it. But at that point in time, I didn't really have any knowledge on what crypto was. So yeah, it was very, very scary, because with crypto, you're actually required to look after your money instead of just, putting it in a savings account. With that savings account, it just accumulates with time, or you just get your interest back every month, compared to actually, being able to diversify your money and put your wealth where you actually want it to, in a sense. So I think for me, getting past that barrier of knowing what I'm actually doing with my money and where my money is going and what I'm investing in, I think that's when I become really comfortable in the game. That's when I realize, all right, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm actually am, fully independent right now. I'm not really requiring any government to pay me or anything. So that's the point where I kind of switched and I was like, all right, this is good. I'm going to put more money in this. And I think this is when I first turned 18, because there was a point where I was like, I didn't really know what I was researching into and how it worked. But eventually it became this threshold where I was like, all right, this is good. This is going to go well. I'm going to keep investing in this. But yeah, that's pretty much me. And that's pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that your friends and co-workers or your co-workers told you about crypto. How much do they help you?
So how that worked was I left school, and so I was 18. Sorry, I was 17 when I left school, and I was 18 when I started this job, and it was a trainee real estate agent. A trainee real estate salesperson job, just down the road from me. So I was like, yeah, may as well get up a bit of money, which ended up turning out to be quite a bad decision to work for, but ended up being the greatest decision ever because it taught me about crypto. So about 6 months into my term there, I met this guy. I won't name his name for obvious reasons, but he was telling me about how he was investing in crypto and Bitcoin. I think it was around 50 to 60K at the time. It was reaching that first initial peak in 2020 before we had that correction. And yeah, that was kind of the start for me. But that was when I was most perplexed about it, most unsure about what it was. But that was the main guy who he didn't really give me help, but he kind of just planted this seed in a sense. It's like, hey, this is Bitcoin, you should look into it. And there was actually a girl I was working with at the time who he fully convinced her, and she ended up putting quite a bit of money in at the actual top. So that just goes to show as well the difference the type of people you can get. So he did help us in a sense, but from there, and I left that job pretty recently after actually learning about Bitcoin and crypto. I left, and that was pretty much me on my own from that point on.
Okay, so Zach, let's talk about crypto in 2021. Bitcoin had slowly been climbing out of the COVID 2020 dump. In 2021, we saw a new all-time high with a double top. The bulls and the bears both got wrecked. It was a complete and utter whirlwind in crypto. You entered the crypto space at this time, at this very extremely volatile time. Tell me about your first experience of the crypto market.
Yeah, so when I first got into crypto, it was creeping up. So we were getting towards that first top, and we are starting to get close to that first crash. And I think I was playing the game for up to about a year before I first pulled out. And it was so I didn't really know what was going on when I first got into it. So it was very scary, like I said before. But as I started to learn about, what I was actually doing, what I was investing in, and how the game worked, my knowledge kind of grew outwards and just expanded in a sense. So it was very scary, I'd say, in the start. But from once I learned what I was doing, it wasn't as scary. But going back, 3 years ago compared to now, my knowledge back then was still a lot less compared to now. So I didn't really know what bull runs were. I didn't really know what longing and shorting was, like, supply and demand, all of these basic concepts that most people know. I didn't have any idea of that. And I'm not going to hide it. Like, we all have to start from somewhere. And my crypto journey started 3 years ago. So the main thing for me was not only getting the confidence in the game, because it was pretty daunting at the start. And then I was actually out pretty quickly. Like, I think I got in and out of crypto within like 12 months, and it was a relatively short stay, but it was pretty good. Like, it was pretty smooth. I didn't really win too much. I didn't really lose too much, but I learned enough about the game to, have a good foundation. That's when I started going back into flying, and my money's really changed. So my priorities with money really changed at that point in time, because my mindset really shifted from investing in crypto, because at that point I wasn't investing in crypto to get rich. I was just investing in crypto just as so not a hedge against inflation or anything, but just to, invest your money in a sense instead of putting it in the stock market, compared to now where I'm actually, playing it a lot differently. So yeah.
Okay. You timed the market perfectly in 2021, leaving with a nice bit of profit just before the first top. What did you do with the money you made?
I put it all into flight training. Well, I put about 80% into flight training, and I think 20%, not my proudest moments, but I think 20% did go into partying. So that was just me at the time. So yeah, I was one of those pilot partiers kind of things. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty eye opening, that's for sure.
So after having a bit of time off and enjoying the fruits of your investments, it didn't take you long to get back into crypto. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think the main thing with getting back into crypto was I was starting to really open my eyes with I think it was around so it was post COVID, And that's when all these not conspiracy theories, like pretty much are conspiracy theories, but these wacky sorts of ideologies and everything around, what the world really is, who truly runs the world, all that sort of stuff. I started thinking about that stuff, and I just started, pondering with different things in my head, and what is this world? You know what I mean? What is the capabilities of this world? What is, what can we do? And then that really took me back to crypto and back to what I was investing in, earlier on. And I was like, hang on a minute. I remember back in 2017, we had a Bitcoin crash. We've just had a Bitcoin crash again. Everyone's telling me that Bitcoin's crashed. There's no doubt we're going to see another one of these. And I think that's when I switched. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going full head first into the water. I don't know how shallow it is, but we're just going to dive straight in. And that's when I really changed, because at that point I was about 19 years old, and I was saying to myself, if I'm going to lose everything, I'm going to lose it right now while I'm 19, and not when I'm, 30, 40 with a family, that sort of thing. So I think that for me was a big stepping stone. It's like, all right, I'm just going to go all out here. And I did. I really did.
Awesome. Zach, budgeting has always been one of your strengths. Even as a teenager, you learned how to budget really, really well, and therefore you were able to participate in crypto effectively. Tell me about crypto and your budgeting strategy.
So I would not recommend my budgeting strategy for anyone on earth, unless you are a full degenerate in a sense. So for me, I was not reckless, but I was like, all right, I'm just going to give this a red hot crack. If it doesn't work, I've got a job to support myself, and I'm just going to try again. You know what I mean? So for me, my strategy was, and I'll say my exact strategy at the appointed time because I think it worked really well for me. So what I did was I got a fly in, fly out job, not for the mines, but for working in airports. So I was working in airports around the country. And what I would do is every single week, I would leave myself $1,000 to essentially survive off, right? So this would be my food. This would be, a flight if I needed it, which I rarely had to pay for. This would be, fuel, whatever I needed. And say, for example, in that week, if I only spent $200, like if I had a good week because I was in Melbourne or something, I would, put $200 back into the account, top it up to 1,000, and then I would leave, a little bit to the side for if something goes wrong, right? And then what I would do is every single dollar on top I earned of that, I would put it all into crypto, every single dollar. So that was my strategy, and it was pretty crazy. Like I would tell people, I'd tell my family, I'd tell my grandparents about it, and they would just look at me weirdly and funnily. But the crazy thing is, it worked. So yeah, I think it's definitely a reckless strategy, but I came up with that strategy derived from an old crypto grip I used to be in when I was getting back in the game. And his retirement plan was to get a FIFO job and invest half of it into Bitcoin and half of it into Ethereum, and then just leave himself a bit over a few years' time. So then I thought, all right, how can we just bring this to a more rationalized standpoint where I don't have to, do those ridiculous hours and those sorts of things. And so I don't have to burn myself out. And that was how I come up with my budgeting plan. And before that, I was hopeless. Like I kid you not, I was hopeless at budgeting, really bad at saving, really good at drinking and going to clubs and that. But then after that change and after that shift in mindset, yeah, it was something. Okay, it just changed.
I actually think your budgeting strategy was on point. I love it.
Yeah, I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad I did that, even though it's like you wouldn't really see that anywhere. That's like, yeah, I'm really happy I stuck with it.
So Zach, as somebody who entered the crypto space as a teenager, what advice would you give to young people who are looking to invest in crypto?
So I'd say don't invest until you're 18, because that can bring up legalities. Even if you don't think it can, be legal as well. You want to keep everything legal. So you want to start from a fresh foundation. You don't want to do anything, you know what I mean, under the table. Let's get that straight. But you also, I would say the big mistake I did was not learning the game before putting money in, because my strategy was, because I didn't have anyone around me really telling me until, I met my first mentor and I started meeting those people in the crypto space. It was trial and error. So it was researching what research does, what research works, what research doesn't work, that sort of thing. So one thing I'd say to all young people getting into the game is, one, do your research before you get into crypto. But if you want to invest, invest smaller amounts until you have those basic fundamentals down packed. Once you can, send crypto, once you know all the basics of the game, that's when you can start, developing these strategies to get more money in. So I'd say, yeah, the young people out there, like, don't necessarily take your time, but definitely get educated before you do it. Because I remember the first book I read my first book about 12 months ago, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the one thing he said was get educated. And since that day, I've stuck to that word. So yeah, getting educated is very, very important, but also making sure that, you're staying on top of everything as well.
You mentioned there something about mentor. So can you explain the sort of support that you found in the crypto community?
Yeah, so when I first started when I first started doing the YouTube channel, I just upload videos and people just reach out. I just interact and start connecting with people and meeting people in the space because it's something I was really passionate about and something I really wanted to get immersed in. And I remember meeting my first crypto mentor, is Angelo. He's a really good buddy of mine. And one of his mates actually introduced me to him, and he's a full-time crypto price action day trader, and he's been doing it for quite a few years now. I think he's been in it for about 7 or 8 years now. I think I may be wrong on that, but no, I think it is about that time. Yeah, and I was really amazed because he come into my life at a time where I really needed someone to get me to that next level. Because for me, there was a barrier in my mind where it was like I wanted to learn more, but I didn't know how to learn it because I didn't have that experience or I didn't know who to look to. And then, miraculously, Angelo's come into my life and he's taught me a lot about the game, a lot about, how money actually moves. And it's necessarily opened my eyes. Sorry, it has opened my eyes to, how to play the game a lot more efficiently and, correctly in a sense. It's really changed my mind. I think mentors are hard to come by, but you can't go looking for a mentor because, like, I don't call him my mentor, right? I'm not going to say, "Hey, you're my mentor," but to me, he's my mentor because he's a very influential figure to me, and he's taught me a lot about the game. Just like to him, the person that taught him his strategies is his mentor, and vice versa. So yeah, that's pretty much what I like to go on with him. I'd say if you want to try and find a mentor, just get amongst communities and you'll start making a network and you'll start meeting people, and those people will start introducing you to other people that give you really, really good information that you can use for your own strategy, make your own concepts and, use the best bits of everyone, sort of thing.
So Zach, regarding this bull run, what are your top narratives?
So my top narrative, so I go a little bit more complex, like into the narratives. So for me, my top narratives are, I have to start with Ethereum. Like, Ethereum is going to be one of the top narratives this cycle. And also Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin's always a narrative. Let's be honest, Bitcoin's just going to keep running. If we're going off Bitcoin, I think Ethereum's going to be very important because we've got that Ethereum ETF and we've got Ethereum scaling going to be very, very important this cycle, especially after the Shanghai upgrade. And we're going to be seeing a lot of hype around Ethereum because, there's going to be that fight now for that digital silver title, right? Because we have the digital gold and we're going to see that digital silver title coming into play, which we're going to have multiple competitors for. I think, in my opinion, we're going to have Ethereum, we're going to have players like Casper all fighting for that spot. And that's why we're going to see all these projects run, not just for the digital silver title, but just for everything that they're providing to the game. Then we break down into the ecosystems. Like, I think Solana is a great play. I think I'm very, very bullish on Solana. Ethereum and Solana are my go-to stablecoins. Those are the only two stablecoins. Oh, sorry. I'll hold more. I call them stablecoins as well because I usually invest in really low cap stuff. So I call Bitcoin, Ethereum stablecoins. In a sense, I usually just call, that's just what I go by because it's so volatile. But I usually always invest in either Ethereum or Solana if I'm looking for stability in my portfolio. Those are my go-to narratives. But then we dive down into the memes, and the memes is where it gets very, very complicated. Memes are short-lived, cheat. Like, I can't even really, explain it. They're just crazy. Meme narratives come and go very, very quick. You have to be very on the ball. I would highly not recommend playing memes until you've got a good understanding on price action and technical analysis, because people say it's not important in memes, but it really is. I think memes are going to be a major narrative this cycle. It already is a major narrative this cycle, but it's not just memes anymore. It's like, we're now diversifying our memes into, okay, we've got the Pepe verse, we've got the Shiba verse, we've got all these other different category memes, and now it's just flowing down the chain from there. We've also got real world assets. We've got the narratives like, real world assets that people aren't expecting to pump, but are going to pump inevitably because we've got people like Larry Fink pushing them, and we're getting a lot more hype in the game. But then narratives like BRC20, which were expected to go really, really well and have just sort of faded off. So it's really in the moment with the narratives, right? And I try and just identify what are we going to see happen next. But if I were going to say the top narratives this cycle, and to pick 5, it'd be AI, Ethereum ecosystem, including Ethereum and scalers. I'd also pick memes. I'd also pick real world assets and DeFi. That would be my go-to, because I think you get a lot more stability with these, and I think you got a lot more longevity with these projects. But don't just invest in DeFi. Like, you have to then find what's going to draw in the volume, what's going to draw in the hype, what's going to, get more engagement in the projects, that sort of stuff. That's when it gets more complicated.
Okay, awesome. Excellent. Zach, most people in crypto struggle to take profits. Now, you managed to take profits really well during the last bull run. What's your exit strategy for this current cycle?
Yeah, so with last cycle, I won't sugarcoat it or anything. That was most certainly a fluke, but I'm just definitely going to make sure that doesn't happen again. So profit strategy for me this cycle is going to be obviously sell in the euphoria, but what defines selling in the euphoria, right? So for me, it's always going to be selling in major bullish imbalance. That's going to be a major thing for me. That's one thing I found with the memes. The best time to take profit is when there's major price imbalance. And for those who don't know what imbalance is, it's essentially when you can get major pushes on a candle either up or down, and that candle hasn't necessarily been come up and filled by the price once again. So we tend to see no balance in the price or an imbalance. So really identifying when these imbalances are occurring, but also when these imbalances are occurring, is it a strength push? Does this push have strength, or are we losing strength on this push? Are we losing buyers? Are we starting to get more sellers in the market? What's the volume doing? Are we tending to be more on the bearish side of volume? Are people like starting to sell, or are people now starting to buy? So there's a lot of different things that you have to think about with the exit strategy. I've been meaning to make an exit strategy video, but the exit strategy, in my opinion, is very, very complex, because the one thing we're all doing in crypto right now is we want to get out of crypto, right? That's the end goal. So the exit strategy is going to be the hardest thing. Another thing I love to look at with the exit strategy is also like the mind of the market. What's everyone thinking on, socials? Is everyone bullish? Because when everyone's in profit and everyone's happy and euphoric, well, I guarantee you Larry Fink and his boys are about to sell. So that's also another thing that I like to stand by. When everyone's happy and profitable, unfortunately, that is the time to shift yourself out of the market, take a bit of a break from the game, and then come back in when it's safe to re-enter. So my profit strategy is not really technical analysis based, like fully, but it's more, more what is like, what's more probable to happen right now? Is Warren Buffett going to want to, sell and buy lower, which he's perfectly timed, or is he going to hold through and now we're going to keep going? So also zooming out and identifying, what is going on essentially on the really, really big, the big picture.
Awesome. Yep. So Crypto Zach, it's a pleasure having you on the show today, learning about your incredible crypto story. I'll add all of your socials down in the description below so you viewers can find you.
It has been absolutely amazing, Crypto Princess. Thank you very much for having me on the channel. And I hope everyone enjoyed this video.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Bye.